Sadly, as the war drew to a close, attitudes toward women workers shifted. Though many women still wanted to keep working, they said that 7 out of 10 said they had found such pride in their work. They enjoyed the sociability of the workplace, the financial independence, the mastery of new skills, and the pleasure of a job well done. But the pressures mounted on them to stop working. Daycare centers were shut down unceremoniously, not to reopen for a generation. The media shifted. Women were now barraged with the pleasures of domesticity and the glories of the suburban housewife. Rosie the Riveter was replaced by the happy homemaker. Articles abounded linking juvenile delinquency with working mothers. And still, despite everything, though female employment fell for a short time, something had been set in motion. And by the late 40s, it began rising again, soon surpassing the wartime peak, and it has continued to rise, of course, ever since. And not surprisingly, the women of World War II were the mothers of the women's liberation generation that solidified what is arguably the most important social revolution of the last century, fundamentally changing the relationships between men and women, and between women and children. And yet, of course, as we all know, we still face difficult challenges of balancing work and family. I well remember the relentless anxiety I experienced when I was trying to combine teaching at Harvard, marriage, writing my second book, and 3 children. My first book on LBJ had been written while I was a professor and still single. I could teach all day and stay up all hours writing if I wanted to. Once I was married with the kids, my days and nights felt like one giant to-do list. I finally decided I couldn't teach and write and be with the kids, so I took the risk of becoming a writer without the security of the university professorship. Still, my second book on the Kennedys took 10 years. I remember being at a cocktail party while still in the midst of writing but no longer at Harvard, and I heard somebody say, "Whatever happened to Doris Kearns anyway?" As if I had died somehow. And I wanted to hit them and say, "I've got 3 boys, that's what happened to me, and this is the life I have chosen for now." But my sons grew older, I had more time to write. I finally finished the Kennedy book, and then Franklin and Eleanor. They teased me, my kids do, that when I was working on Franklin and Eleanor, they could hear me in my study, talking first to Franklin, begging him to be nicer to Eleanor, talking to Eleanor, begging her to forget the affair he had had so many years before, knowing that he loved her. And then when the kids went to college, I could spend whole days with Abraham Lincoln and his team of rivals. I could accept lectures around the country, talk about history and politics on television, and work on the Lincoln movie, things I couldn't have easily done when the kids were younger. It was just a matter of being patient and trusting that I'd be able to balance work and family better as time went on. So I can say to all of you, the overwhelming majority younger than me, that while balance between work and family is never perfect, the key thing is to know what fits best for you at which stage of your life. I will never forget the central wisdom I learned 4 decades ago when I was a graduate student at Harvard with the great psychologist Erik Erikson. He taught us that the richest and fullest lives attain an inner balance between 3 dimensions: work, love, and play in equal order. By work, he meant finding something that gives you meaning, that exercises your talents to the fullest degree. By love, emotional connections with family, friends, and colleagues. And by play, engaging in activities, hobbies, or sports that capture your fancy, that allow you to relax and replenish your energy. To pursue one of these spheres to the disregard of the others, he advised us, is to open oneself to ultimate sadness, whereas to pursue all 3 with equal dedication, though with different intensity at different times in your life, is to make possible a life blessed with fulfillment as well as achievement. I will therefore always be grateful to my father for giving me my field of play through that lifelong attachment to the game of baseball, allowing me to follow my passion from spring until fall, providing a continual source of relaxation and renewal. Though when the Dodgers abandoned Brooklyn for Los Angeles, I was so devastated I couldn't follow baseball for several years, until I came to Harvard, went for the first time to Fenway Park, so reminiscent of Ebbets Field, that I fell instantly in love and became an equally irrational Red Sox fan. While I was still in my 20s, I know, there's some of us here. It is Boston after all. While I was still in my 20s, before I got married and had my children, however, my father died of a sudden heart attack. Wanting to pass on my father's love of baseball to my sons, I took them to Fenway when they were still babes in arms. We've had season tickets now for more than 30 years, and even now I can sit at Fenway with my sons sometimes and close my eyes and and imagine myself a young girl once more in the presence of my father, watching the players of my youth on the grassy fields below, Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, Duke Snyder, and Gil Hodges. I must say there is magic in these moments. When I open my eyes and I see my sons in the place where my father once sat, I feel an almost invisible loyalty and love, linking my sons to the grandfather whose face they never had a chance to see, but whose heart and soul they have come to know through the countless stories I have told. Which is why in the end I shall always be grateful for this curious love of history, allowing me to spend a lifetime looking back into the past, allowing me to believe that the private people we have loved and lost in our families and the public figures we have respected in history really can live on, so long as we pledge to tell and to retell the stories of their lives. Thank you so much for letting me do that for you today.